Good morning, Stampers. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card that features some of the items from the July through December 2021 Stampin' Up! Mini Catalog. To begin with, let me show you a little closer. This features the embossing folder. Don't look too closely at this one because on this particular sample I glued it on upside down, so all of the words are upside down and you really can't read it. So that embossing folder is called Time Worn Type 3D Embossing Folder. Another item I'm using is the sentiment, which comes from Peaceful Cabin stamp set, and the paper. This is just a small portion of this beautiful paper. It is called Blackberry Beauty Specialty Designer's Paper, 12 by 12 inch paper, which is also featured in the new catalog. So let's set this aside and I'll show you how we're going to make it. First of all, this is one of the sheets of paper from that beautiful 12 by 12 inch specialty designer paper. This is the other side. On each of the pieces, one side is gilded so that you can see the gold in it here and there, and the other side doesn't have the gilding. Here's another sheet. There are 6 designs, 2 of each one, and each design is double-sided. So this is the gilded side on this one. Here is another one, and flip it over to see the gilded side. And then there's this design, and when you flip it over, this is the gilded side. There's a lot of gold going on in that one. Here is one more, and this is the gilded side. These colors aren't exactly true on this screen. It appears that they're a little bit darker, maybe a little more yellow than they are true to life. The design that we're going to use today, I've already cut this piece up, so I'm going to have to show it to you in pieces parts. But this is the paper. You can see that it has the design on both sides, and you can cut it down the middle and use it as a border on a scrapbook page, or in this case I've cut out a small piece here and we're going to use that for the front of the card. And then the back side of this piece looks like this. So to begin, I'm going to take these pieces parts. I've already cut a strip. This is a 2-inch wide strip of the designer paper, and I'm going to glue it to this piece of cardstock. This is early espresso cardstock, and the measurement for this piece is 3 3/4 inches by 2 1/8 inches. And what I'm going to do with that is glue this piece to the front of that. I want to leave a little, this is about a 1/16 of an inch around the bottom and the side edges. And then you can see I've already taken my paper snips and I've trimmed around the top of that design. So once I put it on this early espresso cardstock, I'm going to do the same thing around the top. I'm just going to trim, leaving about the same amount of space as there is around the sides and the bottom. So I'm just trimming around the edge here. Very carefully, because I don't want to mess up on air, which I'm going to do invariably. I do. Okay, now we have the piece that's going to go on the front of the card, and you'll see as I make this that the design is going to be opposite as the original card that I showed you. That's because just based on wherever this 2-inch strip falls, it looks better either on the right or the left. So this one will go on the left. I'm going to set that piece aside, and I'm going to finish up the sentiment. This piece of paper, this again is early espresso, and this piece was 4 1/8 inch by 1 inch. And I've trimmed around the edge of it with this punch. I don't want to get too much, there we go, not too much shine on it, but I want you to be able to see it. We're going to use this side, and this is the Lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch. This piece, the white, where I've stamped the sentiment, is, let's see, that's 3/4 inch wide by 3 7/8 inches long. I think that's right. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I just want to show you how I do this. I'm going to slide it. This wonderful punch has 3 channels. You can make labels that are 1 inch wide, 3/4 inch wide, or a 1/2 inch wide. So I'm going to slide this into the, oh, let's see, which one is the, I think this is the right side because I stamped it a little crooked on the first try. I'm going to slide that right into the 3/4 inch channel, and I'm going to flip it over because I want to make sure that that's lining up where I want it to on the end. And you can see it coming through down here at the end. That allows you to make sure that it's even on both sides, if you can see it right there. And it looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to punch and pull it out, and there is that same design as we have on the border the matte piece. Okay, then I'm going to do the other end, and there we have it. This is our piece that we're going to glue to this mat, and I'm going to place it on there first and just make sure that it's going to line up. Yep, that looks like it's going to line up fairly closely. And we'll just put that right on there, centering it as best we can. It's early in the morning. I'm just starting my coffee, so might be a little off here and there. Okay, so this is the sentiment, and I'm also going to set this aside. I'm actually going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back first, because I'm going to pop this up when we finish the card. One at each end, a couple in the center, and I like to kind of stagger them so that it keeps it. Probably don't need this many, but what the heck, I have a lot of them. I stagger them so that there's some on this side, some on this side, and that keeps it from wobbling back and forth, up and down. So I'm going to set that aside. Okay, now I'm going to do something, well, I think I'm going to set this aside until, let's do the inside first, because this is going to be really messy when we do the gilding on here, and I think I'd like to save that for the last. So let's take the inside pieces. This piece is the matte for the white, and on the inside, this is the greeting. Because we have this piece on the right side for this card, I stamped the flowers on the left side just to kind of balance things out. We're going to do it the opposite of that on this other card. But to do that greeting, I used the Queen Anne's Lace stamp set. This is not in the mini catalog. This is in the 2021-22 annual catalog, and I'm using the flowers from that one. And first I'm going to use gray granite ink to stamp the stems. And I'm going to stamp that right here. This is the stem and the outline of the flowers that we've stamped there. Then I'm going to use Sahara Sand to fill in those flowers. So I'm going to use another stamp that's going to fill in those flowers. This is just a solid stamp. And you can line that right up with the stamped image. Hopefully. And there we filled in the flowers. That's pretty good. On some of them that I was stamping, I did this as a swap card with some of my demonstrator friends. And on some of them, I was a little further off than that. And then the thank you. And the thank you, as well as the sentiment on the front, comes from the Peaceful Cabin stamp set. And this is the one that's featured in the mini catalog. And I just want to put my thank you somewhere there by the flowers, because that gives you a lot of room to write a little personal note. So I'm going to put that right in here. Thank you. And that's pretty much all there is to the inside of this card. So let's go ahead and glue that in. I feel like I should be listening to music. I always listen to music when I'm in my craft room, but I think that's probably a little annoying when I'm doing a video, so I turn it off when I'm doing that. And I put a big sign on my door that says recording, so my husband doesn't come in to say, "Honey, breakfast is ready," while I'm in the middle of recording. As if that would ever happen, because my sweet Bob is the most wonderful person in the world, but he doesn't cook. Okay, so we're ready to do the front, and here comes the messy part. We're going to take this piece of cardstock. This is gray granite. Turn it around the right way, where you can actually, oh, look, there are words that you can read. So this piece, again, I have already gone ahead and embossed it with the 3D time-worn type embossing folder. And it's got a lot of areas in here where there's this raised section. You can kind of see that, all these little areas that are raised above the lettering, and we're going to put the little bit of gold gilding on that. So the first thing I'm going to do, because if I don't, we're going to have a huge mess, is turn off my overhead fan. And then I'm going to bring over some tools. Because did I mention this is really messy? Really, really messy. Okay, I opened up my gilded leafing. I opened up this tiny little container, and it expanded into this container, which, okay, granted, it doesn't go to the top, but there's a lot in there. So when you open it, you want to be in a place where you have a place that's easy to clean up. Because I got it on stamps, I got it on stamping pads, I got it in my tools. It just kind of exploded. Okay, so now I have it in a container that's a little bit easier to work with. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, and this is a little tray that I got from Stampin' Up! Oh my gosh, years and years and years ago when I first started. I've been a demonstrator for 16 years now, so this was one of my first items that I purchased. It's a little bit difficult to see this because of the lighting here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this two-way glue pen which Stampin' Up! Actually doesn't sell anymore, and I was amazed to see that it still worked because I had not used it in a really good long time. And I'm going to put this on a hard surface so I can work with it a little easier, and I'm going to put it kind of up here. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and add a little glue on some of those areas where it's got that design. And I'm just kind of randomly putting it on there. I don't want to cover the entire thing. Make sure there's glue coming out. Yep, I believe there is. So just random areas. I'm adding some of that glue. You know, this was working better yesterday. I think it's because I don't have an entirely solid surface here. But I think it's coming out enough that we'll be able to show this. This two-way glue actually you can get, now that Stampin' Up! No longer sells it. This is actually a Zig product. And I have a newer Zig pen, but you know, I thought I'd kind of stick with Stampin' Up! Things today since this is featuring Stampin' Up! Stuff. And if you glue it down immediately, it's glue. If you let it sit for a few minutes, it's more of a temporary glue. So if you want to have things that you can put on permanently, glue it down while it's still wet. If you want things that you can later remove, for instance, you're doing a bulletin board that you're going to change out some of the items, you can let it dry first, and it never actually dries, it just becomes tacky. And at that point you can put things on and take them back off again. Okay, I think I've got enough glue on there. So this is the messy part. Cap up my glue again, keep it for another 15 years. Okay, I'm going to put it in my tray. I'm just going to pick up some of this gold leafing. You can see it's just kind of a flaky stuff. And I'm just going to press it down onto those glued areas. Actually, I'm kind of pressing it down all over because I don't know exactly where those glued areas are and I don't want to miss any of them. And that's all I'm doing. This is just, there's no science to it. You're just pressing it down onto the areas where there's glue. You can use any kind of glue you happen to have around. I'm not sure, but I think you might be able to stamp Versamark. And it might stick to that as well. I haven't tried it yet, so I can't guarantee that that's accurate. Okay, I think I've pretty much got those areas. I just wanted it to be on there randomly. And I didn't want to overwhelm the design of the card with so much glue. Okay, what I use next is just an ordinary, probably you can get them at the Dollar Tree, these little sponge paint brushes. And I tried several different things to scrape off the remainder, and this worked the best for me. So I'm just going to kind of sweep that off of there, all of that stuff. And you can see already that we're getting some gilding in those areas where I had added the glue. You can tell I'm kind of scrubbing here. I actually went through one of these yesterday. I made about a dozen cards yesterday like this. And by the time I was finished, because of that embossing on there, it had pretty much torn up this little paintbrush, but they're so inexpensive. It's okay. I think if the embossing wasn't on there, I could use it for a long, long time. Okay, oops, see? Look at this stuff fly around. How messy. Crazy messy. Okay, now we're finished. And that's the background piece. So there is your gilded, your gilding medium. It's actually called Gilded Leafing, and that is in the annual catalog, the 2021-22 annual catalog. Okay, set aside all this stuff before it gets really messy. And then we can finish up the front of the card. And it's as easy as can be from here on out. We're just going to attach this piece. Oh, I mentioned that Zig makes a two-way glue pen. That's what this looks like. And it's got that same type of a flat tip. They also make a fine point glue stick that's very similar to this. I don't think that one is a two-way glue stick, though. I think it's just regular adhesive. Okay. And if you've been trying to write down the measurements for this card, no need to do that, because you will be able to find them at kathyscraftroom.blogspot.com. And all of the measurements, oops, don't want to put that on upside down. I can tell because the word harvest is right up here in the corner, so that's how I can tell if it's upside down or right side up. And this doesn't, I mean, once it's on here, it's on here. So you're not gonna, well, I already had some on there from pressing it down, so I have a little bit of glue on there, but it's not from rubbing it right now. It's just from when I was putting it together. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is attach this piece to the front of the card. And I'm going to put that about 1/8 of an inch from the side and the bottom. And then because of the way that I cut it, the size, it's going to come out also to about 1/8 of an inch from the top. And these cards are they're all going to look different, because as you can see, these are all different heights. So I did need to trim some of the area on the bottom so that they would fit within this small piece. But very pretty cards. And then I'm going to remove the backing from my dimensionals. And I'm going to place that right about here. Yep, that looks pretty even to me. And that's it. That's the card. It's finished. So these are the two cards. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you try that gilded leafing. It's a little bit messy, but it's kind of fun, and I think you'll enjoy it. It has a really nice effect on the card itself when you're finished. Thank you.